And I said earlier that I don't have a lot of respect for a lot of lawyers. I really don't. Because particularly insurance defense attorneys, medical malpractice defense attorneys, I've talked to many of them who will say, we know darn well the case should settle. We shouldn't put the poor injured plaintiff through the ringer. But my boss told me to because it's billable hours. I've had employees of major law firms tell me that they are ordered to pad the bill. I've had associates call me up, fax me with names, of course, blotted out. He said, these are fake bills. We didn't work these hours and bill our clients. Happens all the time. And it happens because there are too many of us. When there weren't that many, you didn't have to do it. You were adequately busy. When there are too many, you're all hustling after that ever-shrinking slice of pie.
Was there a point in time where you saw a large change in lawyers? Was it within the last 10 years or maybe 20 years ago? Is there an identifiable period, even a vague period, but is there something?
Yeah, I think when I'd say within the past 10 years, when more lawyers began migrating to Bakersfield, satellite offices opened up. That was indicative of something very bad happening. Mostly from LA, I would say. And, here they're poaching in your backyard, basically. That's the way it was viewed. Law schools are a big part of the problem, and now they're shrinking in enrollments like crazy, fortunately. But, it was Voltaire who once said that more physicians and lawyers in a community are not the sign of better health, physically or legally, but of poorer health. And that's very true. Because, what's the incentive now? Is the incentive to tell the guy, get the heck out of my office, you're an idiot. Why don't you talk to your neighbor about the branches hanging over the fence, or cut them off yourself? I'm not going to send a letter. I'm not going to charge you for that. Doesn't happen that way. Of course I'll send a letter. So in the process, we ruin a relationship between neighbors. We don't care. The problem, lawyers are very bad paid, by the way. Lawyers not all lawyers, again. We have some clowns in this town don't pay their bills. They just don't pay their bills. One of the largest defense firms here hired my client, who was a real estate appraiser, to do a job for them. His own contract says, you pay me, not your client. You're hiring me. When I give you the report, you pay me. Gave them the report, they didn't pay him. Same thing happened to him with a different law firm at a job he did out in San Bernardino County. He came to see me about those guys. It was for a junior college. And so we called the go-to guy at the junior college. He said, my God, we paid that bill months ago. So I called the senior partner at that law firm out in the desert. I said, I'm Dennis Beaver. I'm a syndicated newspaper columnist. I have Mr. Jones here, who you tried to stiff. Now, I expect his check in my office tomorrow, or we're going to the state bar because your guys are thieves. It arrived the next day. And I did my article, and I named them. Did my story, and I named them. So now back up here, the local Bakersfield firm. I contacted the lawyer who wasn't paying my guy. I faxed him, before we could scan with email, I faxed him the article about the other law firm. Within 10 minutes, my client gets a phone call saying, could you come over and see us? We have something for you. They gave him a check. He said, oh, don't think Mr. Beaver had anything to do with this. Yeah, my eye. So what's wrong with the legal profession? The lack of morality. We don't care. We don't care. Your Honor, it's not fair, it's not just, it's not moral. Those are dirty words in a courtroom. You don't hear them, because judges laugh when they hear that. Those are the most important words in the world. Should be to this profession. We should act and be fair, moral, act ethically, not screw somebody for a buck. Not do what my client tells me, but what's right. Nowhere where you see we have a duty of zealously representing the client. That does not appear, that word zealous representation does not appear in our canons of ethics, anywhere. It's an excuse. So what frustrates me and makes me so angry are lawyers who know they are doing bad things, who know they are acting in an evil manner. I wrote an article about this called Remember the Children in Divorce. I'll have to maybe scan this and get this to you so you maybe can take a photograph of it, possibly somehow use it on this piece. And the point of it was that a father was denied visitation with his kids by a lawyer who would refuse, for the wife, who refused to sit down with them, buy them a soda, and just talk about what they wanted. They wanted to spend more time and really live with Dad. But Mom and her lawyer did everything that they could to keep the kids away from Dad. And this unfolded on the 24th of November. It was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. A young couple show up at my office. They say, you probably don't remember us, but you handled our father's divorce. We were about 12 or 13 at the time. And you had a loud conversation with my mother's lawyer, and you told him, talk with us. They want to spend time with our father, and they refused. She has kept us from our father. When we turned 18, we became adults, we found out what was going on. That we never got his Christmas presents. But we're spending this Thanksgiving with him because it's going to be his last. He's dying of cancer. And I don't know what would have happened had the other lawyer listened and paid attention to us. And that's the essence of the story. So that's a typical example of what we do that is so very, very wrong. And we're paid to do bad things. When you have a client who, may I read you a letter from a client?
Sure.
All right. All right. Dear Mr. Beaver, I'm not sure if you are the same attorney I went to years ago, but if not, I apologize. But if you did criminal law, specifically DUI defenses, I think you are the right person. It was 1986. I was 22 years old and facing my third DUI. I came to you looking for a defense, a technicality, an out. You had no mercy. You told me I was an alcoholic, that I should have been scared to death after number 2, and I better pull my head out and realize it, more or less. I was shocked, offended, and dismayed all at once. You were supposed to help me get off. But you were right. I wish I could say that I learned my lesson there, but it took me many more years and quite a few stints in jail to make me realize you were right. I'm only glad to say I never hurt anyone but myself. But I always remembered your speech and have thought about writing this letter for years. I don't think you do DUIs anymore, but if you do, keep telling them the truth. Keep telling them what they need to hear. You may save a life or two. Thanks for putting a bug in my ear that never went away. God bless. Tom. It took 27 years, my wife wrote on the envelope. 27 years for him to send me this letter. You imagine that? 27 years. So this is one heck of a compliment, and one heck of a testimony to the fact that other lawyers didn't tell him what he should have heard. So that's what I fault us with. Not having the guts, the intestinal fortitude to tell a client, you're wrong. Pay the bill. I'll help you work out a payment plan. Don't ask me to use my skills to help you rip off somebody else. It's not moral. But you don't hear that much, that often. Now maybe and I know I'm very fortunate. I was well known from radio and television, very busy. I'm not a legal scholar. I have a solid B lawyer. I don't grade myself a solid A lawyer. I'm a solid B lawyer. So I was busy and made money and had the ability, my God, just the incredible opportunity of rejecting business, of telling people what they had to hear, telling them off, get out of my office, pay the bill. It might have been very different if I was having to hustle for every client that came into my office, to worry about paying the rent. So I'm in a very favored position, and perhaps I sound self-righteous. But what I hear from people who are referred to me, they say, you might not like Beaver, but he'll tell you the truth. And I think ultimately, most of us need to know that when we're in trouble. I think most of us do. A lot want to remain in denial. But I think that when you're in deep poo-poo, you need to know what's going on. You need to be told by your doctor, look, you're going to die of this shit.
And do you think that the problems in the legal industry that affect attorneys' practices, more attorneys, maybe I don't know if these sort of do-it-yourself law practices that aren't lawyers, but they're businesses that spring up that help people do it yourself. I don't know if that takes work away from lawyers or not, but these problems that you've identified, do you think that it affects attorneys' work-life balance, and that leads to a spiral? And I've thought about it based on this conversation today, and maybe there are more lawyers, so a smaller pie, as you've identified, leading to maybe less money available or more hustling for a dollar, I think is how you phrase it, leading to maybe a more need to be dishonest, or the boss saying you need to bill more hours. It goes up the chain, and then leads to longer hours, more stress at home, more just a more unhappy life.
I would say that depending upon how you market our interview, it would be appropriate for people considering going to law school to see it. This is not a happy business, folks. Nobody comes into my office and says, hey, Beav, job is great, wife is happy, kids are doing great in school. Things couldn't be better. The day that happens, I pick up the phone and dial 911. I've got a lunatic here. Nobody happy walks into a lawyer's office unless we do an adoption or start a new company. But if you're in general practice of law, especially if you're in litigation, criminal law, divorce, you name it, this is an abnormal. This is not normal. Most people go to their jobs, they get along with their coworkers, they get home 5:30 or so, have dinner, they're happy, lead normal lives. This is an incredibly high-stress, unhappy business, terribly interesting. I really like being a lawyer. It's fascinating. I mean, the weirdest bunch of nuts in the world. I get stuff from my newspaper column because of people in problems. But you pay a price for it. And we have one of the highest divorce rates, one of the highest rates of alcoholism and drug abuse in our business. my wife said, when our son was born, we're having dinner every night at 6:30. You can go back to the office if you want to, but we're having dinner together. Aye, aye, Captain. Yes, ma'am. And I did that. Rarely would I come back. So work-life balance, honor your spouse. One of my colleagues here is a senior partner at a major law firm, civil firm. His first marriage was destroyed because of the hours he spent working. 12-hour days or weekends, stuff like that. It's not normal. And while I'm glad I made a couple of dollars and able to send kids on trips they could never afford, I realize at this stage of my life, and I've realized this for a very, very long time, that, you need a certain level of income to comfort is important. Absolutely. But, you don't need to buy a new car every 3 or 4 years. That normalcy and loving the people who you're with, spending time with your kids, not having so much stress is so incredibly important. That said, if you approach people reasonably and they know you're a lawyer, they will listen to you because they know you're a lawyer. And they know that you are kind of like a rattlesnake who could bite them. So they listen to you. And if you're reasonable and you act in a mature manner, can accomplish a great deal. I like that about being a lawyer. I like picking up the phone and using the 4 words that are the most important in my vocabulary. What are they? I need your help. I need your help. I need your help. Hi, Mr. Jones. This is Dennis Beaver. Dennis like the menace. Beaver like leave it to Beaver. If there's a giggle, that's good at that point in time. I'm an attorney and I need your help. Now, this is a scripted conversation that should promote a reflexive response, which is, if I say, Aaron, I need your help, what are you likely to say to me?
How can I help?
How can I help? Now, that's a reflexive response. You don't even think to say that. Your brain says it before you think about it. That's what I want. I want the ears to remain open. And I typically say, he tells me you owe him a couple of bucks. I do not know the full story. Can you help me understand what's going on here? If you enlist somebody's help, people who are of good faith and not thieves will talk to you, and you'll get a chance of resolving it. Cons may or may not. Crooks won't hang up on you. But it hurts no one to begin reasonably.